Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan has left the Biden administration with a big headache over China as it tries to manage ties with the nation's biggest rival and growing global threat. Joining us now, former ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley. Ambassador Haley, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
So let's start with Pelosi's trip to Taiwan. Here's what she had to say.
Now more than ever, America's solidarity with Taiwan is crucial, and that is the message we are bringing here today.
China has responded aggressively in the days since her visit, and to that you've said this week, quote, America needs to show that we won't let Beijing's temper tantrum dictate our foreign policy. The Taiwanese are free people who must not be trampled by the Chinese communists. So do you endorse the speaker's trip, and what should U.S. policy with China be going forward?
You know, I do think that Nancy Pelosi was right to go to Taiwan. It's a shame that Biden tried to put a wrench in it by saying the military didn't want her to go. You know, China's trying to bully us the same way they try and bully their own people, and we shouldn't have it. Taiwan is a island of 23 million people who have managed to be free for 70 plus years. We should always have the backs of our allies, and we should always hold our enemies to account. They're a huge force when it comes to our economy, and we need to make sure that Taiwan knows that we're going to be there for them. And so, yes, I think Nancy Pelosi should go there, and I think we should continue to strengthen Taiwan every chance we get.
There are some expressing concern that this was too provocative. Former Senator Max Baucus, who was also the ambassador to China under President Obama, had this to say.
She's Speaker. She's not just an ordinary member of Congress. What this is doing, it's pushing the support of democracy a little closer to crossing the line into independence. That's the real problem here.
Does he have a point? Do you have any concerns?
You know, I've watched China have a temper tantrum multiple times when things don't go their way. What you're seeing is that the Party Congress is going to be meeting soon, and President Xi wants to show his strength. So he is bullying Taiwan. He's trying to pretend that there's going to be a war. He's trying to scare them. America should never respond to fear. We should always focus on preventing wars. The way you prevent wars is you don't shy away from having the backs of your allies, and you let your enemies know what we expect of them. These temper tantrums are childish, and they're dangerous, and they shouldn't be doing them. And the last thing we need to do is run from that.
If you were in office right now, what would you do to help Taiwan?
Right now, I think we should send them the defense equipment that they need. We should give them any training that they need. And we should let the rest of the world know that Taiwan has been free, and they have fought communist China for a long time and in trying to infiltrate in there. And we should just stand strongly with them. And I think we have to get our allies, India, South Korea, Japan, all of those other countries who believe the same thing. They need to be with us. And as long as we do that, China will realize they need to back off.
You've been critical of President Biden on China. Here he is from May.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are?
That's the commitment we made.
Is that still too soft?
Well, I think, first of all, you know, Taiwan's not asking us to get involved militarily. They're asking us to help them with equipment and asking us to help them defend themselves. What you have to look at, Biden, is look at the world in which we live in. Here you have Russia sitting there trying to take over Ukraine. They're taking American hostages. You've got China, who's trying to bully Taiwan and scare the rest of the world into in any way defending Taiwan. You've got Afghanistan now harboring terrorists that are trying to kill Americans by allowing al-Qaeda back into Afghanistan. It's been a total mess. And what we've seen is Biden has run scared from his shadow the entire administration. We've got to start showing strength and preventing wars. We've got to start taking the world back towards an avenue of peace and not one that runs from any enemy that seems to shout louder. And that's what we've watched Biden do. And I think it's a terrible mistake, and we have to snap out of it.
Let me follow up on Afghanistan. The president says this week that the U.S. has killed 9/11 plotter Ayman al-Zawahiri in an airstrike. But isn't the grim reality that if you kill one terror leader, they're like cockroaches? There could be thousands more ready to step into that position?
You can bet on it, Mike. Zawahiri was a great win for the intelligence community and a great win for the Biden administration. I mean, we should always let these terrorists know that we don't forget. You kill thousands of our Americans, we're going to hunt you down and we're going to make sure we find you. And so I think that's great. But what this is very telling is if you're standing, comfortable and free on a balcony, you can bet there are other terrorists all over Afghanistan. Mark my words. Had we never had that blunder in Afghanistan, we would not be having the war you're seeing in Ukraine. We would not have al-Qaeda terrorists sitting there running free in Afghanistan. We would not have China showing the arrogance that they're showing over Taiwan. This all happened because of how America showed weakness. Now we have to find our strength, and we better get to work, and we better get to work soon.
This week, the Senate voted nearly unanimously to vote for NATO expansion to include Finland and Sweden. Only one senator voted no. Here's why he says he voted no.
In years past, NATO was a bulwark against an imperial Soviet Union. Today, the world's greatest imperial threat is in Asia.
You've called NATO the strongest alliance in history. Was Senator Hawley wrong to vote no?
This is what I'll tell you. You have to be able to balance multiple balls at the same time. What you're looking at with NATO, it has been one of the strongest alliances in history. And what I, want to share with Americans is that you're looking at an alliance that has been incredibly strong. Finland and Sweden make that alliance even stronger. Finland's very strong militarily. But think about this. We have never had to defend a NATO country in the history of its alliance. The only time they've ever had to use their defense forces was after 9/11 when we asked them to. And all of NATO went to Afghanistan in defense of us. So there's a reason that when you look at who Russia has invaded in the past, they've invaded Georgia, they've invaded Moldova, they've invaded Ukraine, all countries outside of NATO, because that's where they go after. They go after countries of weakness. This alliance is strong. This alliance needs to stay strong. That is why Russia's staying away from it. We have to also remember we never take our eyes off of China. China's right now trying to gobble up as much agricultural land as they can. Look at what they're doing. They're putting cables in rural areas. They just bought land near North Dakota's Strong Forks Air Force Base because that's a big military drone technology hub. That's where we have more of our military communications globally. We have to start being smart and be able to handle multiple threats at the same time, not take one at a time.
Let's talk Russia. The U.S. has offered a substantial proposal to free basketball star Brittany Griner and businessman Paul Whelan. Was that a flawed approach, the U.S. showing its hand too early?
Well, the idea that Russia is taking American hostages is something we need to take seriously. And certainly we want to make sure we get those two, Brittany Griner and Paul Whelan, home. It's important. But what I will tell you is this is the wrong way to go about doing it. When you start to get into prisoner swaps, this is not a Russian hockey player we're talking about that they want to swap. This is a Russian arms dealer that was giving terrorists weapons to kill Americans. Make no mistake, that is dangerous. And if you do this prisoner swap, this is letting Russia know and every enemy we have know, get as many American hostages as you can, because that's how we'll get all our terrorists back home. That is not the way to do it. We need to get these two Americans home, but you don't do it with prisoner swaps with people that are trying to kill Americans.
All right, let's talk 2024. You've been asked before whether you will run for president. If former President Trump does not, here's what you had to say last year.
If this president signs any sort of deal,
I would not run if President Trump ran. And I would talk to him about it. That's something that we'll have a conversation about at some point if that decision is something that has to be made.
Given revelations from the January 6th committee hearings this summer that President Trump still encouraged the crowd to go to the Capitol on January 6th, even though he knew some of them were armed, that the fake electors plan was illegal, and he still put pressure on Vice President Pence at the time. Does that give you any cause for concern? Should he not run in 2024?
Well, I think President Trump will decide for himself if he wants to run again. And the January 6th has been a biased committee from the start without anyone pushing back on any of the information they have. So it's very hard for Americans to trust it. What I will tell you is, look, if there's a place for me, I look at the craziness in the world. I look at what's happening with this woke culture in our schools, wanting our kids to decide their gender. I look at the fact that we've got men playing women's sports. I look at the fact that we've got our military focused on gender pronoun classes. What I will tell you is we need to snap out of it. This is absolute craziness. We've got enemies trying to come after us, and America has been naive, it's been weak, and it's been asleep at the wheel. I'm just saying, sometimes it takes a woman. And Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. We should not take our eyes off of 2022. If we don't win in 2022, there won't be a 2024. So we need to stay humble, disciplined, and win that. And then if there's a place for me, I've never lost a race. I'm not going to start now. We'll see what happens and we'll go forward. But we need to get America strong again. We need to start focusing on our foreign policy in a way we haven't done in a while, and we're going to need to focus on it for the next 20 years. We need to bring sanity back to our domestic policy, and we need to start fighting for Americans again, fighting for their wallets, fighting for their children's education, fighting for opportunities, and making sure we get back on track. I'll do whatever I can to make that happen.
So it sounds like you're saying there's a chance in 2024. Have you spoken to your donors about those potential plans?
You know, we haven't, but we've spoken to our donors about helping us win in 2022. We were in Georgia for Herschel Walker. We were in Wisconsin for Ron Johnson and Rebecca Clayfish. We're going back for Brian Kemp. We're going to be in Pennsylvania. We have endorsed over 50 candidates. We're campaigning. We're fundraising. We've put over $4.5 million into their campaign accounts. We're going to fight to win. But let me remind you and Americans, Mike, winning is half the battle. Proving they deserve to be there when they win is the other half of the battle. We expect every person that is elected in November that they should fight on their first day. They shouldn't wait until 2024. We need to see Congress putting bills on Joe Biden's desk. He can't veto everything. Instead of jumping on TV and fighting and showing rhetoric, we want to start seeing Congress get something done. The American people are tired of seeing what's happening at the border. They're tired of seeing crime on our streets. They're tired of seeing an economy and runaway spending. Let's get to work. We've got to do that for Americans right now.
Ambassador Haley, thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much, Mike.